All right, let's start. Any rules for this, just in terms of I don't know, is like this is a PG-13 podcast or what's like.
Man, PG-13, but like that PG-13, not because like you're allowed one F-bomb, but you put two in. Oh man. Like it's
Okay.
not the time to just start, talking
No,
all.
no, 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 no. I understand. No, no. Keep it clean. Got it.
Yeah, but it's all good. This is actually gonna probably find itself on YouTube, this conversation we're having about the PG-13 part.
Okay, cool. All right. Fine. I just I'm just a bit tired, so I don't want to get lazy.
No, no, cool. Yeah, you
All right.
but anyway, man, I just want to ask you, so the first question I ask everybody, dude, how's isolation going? You mentioned a few things, but maybe just talk some more about that.
How is isolation going? It's fine. Uh, yeah, I mean, to be honest, my life isn't that different. It's kind of weird. I'm a bit of an introvert naturally. Anyway, I've never been really big into going out a lot, and over the last few years, that has, especially with my teaching schedule, that's kind of become less and less and less. If anything, I get to sleep in a little more. Um, and I'm lucky that I can do my practicing in the basement of my building. So I've been going downstairs instead of um, going to Lichtenberg to my practice space. And you know, uh, we have the dog, and the dog actually takes up a lot of time and energy. So it's actually kind of nice to have the time to give her the chance to really run around and stuff. So, it's a lot of basically the teaching, practicing, and then we take the dog to Volkspark Friedrichshain, let her run around in the park, and
Hmm.
that's you know going for the odd Späti beer and walk and talk with some neighbors. But it's fine.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I think, you know, I find from a lot of musicians right now that's not, aside from just the lack of work, um, that I guess, some people are experiencing, but aside from the financial kind of loss that's happened, it seems like a lot of people
Yeah.
really just enjoying this opportunity to kind of connect, and just be home for a bit. And yeah, it's kind of funny. You mentioned, you're able to practice in your basement. Was that always an option? Because I remember you were like talking about going to Lichtenberg a lot to practice and there.
I never really tried. I just
Yeah.
I had so much. I've had conflicts with neighbors in different buildings over the years since moving to Berlin, and compared to the situation I had in New York and in Canada, this was the first place I've ever lived where neighbors were really intense about their quiet time, and also just the fact that gigs have to stop at 10. And I mean, by the time we moved into this place, I was like, well, I don't want to make things bad with my neighbors. So I already had a great practice space in Lichtenberg. So, and I like having an office. I liked, you know, I find it a little difficult to, or historically, I find it a little difficult to be focused at home. I mean, now I come in the kitchen and I'm teaching from here. Um, and that's I think maybe the biggest change. But I like to have my living space be a place where I can feel comfortable just not doing anything.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And not feeling as much pressure to work. But it's also, saxophone's just so loud, and I mean, even though your neighbors might be cool, I don't want to push it.
Right.
But I put up a note around the building, basically saying, "Hey, like, I'm really sorry, but I'm a professional musician and a teacher, and my classes are happening. And a lot of times they kind of start around 8 and 9 a.m. And I'm going to be making some noise. And here's my contact info." Um, but surprisingly, thankfully, everyone I have interacted with in the building has been very cool about it. They've been very understanding and very nice. And there's a lot of musicians in my building, actually, like sort of hobby musicians and people who are sympathetic to the arts and whatever. So it's been fine, actually. You know, it's a little weird being in like a bunker downstairs when the weather's so nice. I
Right.
kind of miss my practice space because it has a window.
I mean, I think being in a bunker on any level is just already like, I mean, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a side.
but but you know what it's. I mean, you're a horn player too, man. You must know what it's like. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of a practice module or whatever. Like,
Right.
you gotta practice, and I am addicted to practicing. I am somebody who really needs to practice 2 to 4 hours a day.
Right.
And if I get kind of nuts if I'm not able to do that. And there's been times in my life when I worked as a dishwasher. I worked in or in a warehouse or wherever, and
Right.
you bring the horn to work. You get your lunch break, and you find a storage room or a stairwell, or you go out in the alley out back and get some time in. And it's like sometimes that's what you have to do. You go to the park, or so I've always been a believer in, like, you can find a way to do it if you're cool with not ideal circumstances, environments. I mean, like, I am fine with an enclosed space like a basement or a back room or something, just because that to me is better than being in public and trying to focus while people are like walking around and stuff.
Totally. No, I hear you. I think, yeah, that you bring up a good point too. If you're focused enough and you're determined enough, you're gonna find a way to make it happen. And that's something, you know, yeah, I don't I know in my experience, I've been fortunate in that, I haven't yeah, I actually have washed dishes, but nothing, nothing where it was definitely in college still. But yeah, I remember, yeah. I know in the airport though, just a few times, like whenever I have the horn with me there, it's like, and you have these long layovers, it's just like perfect to like go and find like a spot where only maybe one dude is reading a book in isolation,
Right.
pulling a mute and just like, you know, do some basic warm up exercises to make sure the chops are fresh. But yeah, I mean, but you bring up a good point just with regard to, if you need to find a way to make it happen, and if you're determined enough, you will. And maybe you can speak a bit to that, just to how you're adapting right now with other things. Like maybe speak. I mean, you've spoken a bit to music and work, but how is it right now in isolation, where you're working? I know you have, your girlfriend and your dog. You talk about that, and you talked a bit about that. Maybe could you talk a bit more about kind of how that dynamic has shifted since you're now both at home, I guess.
um
Just assume you're both at home, but maybe talk a bit about.
no, we're both here. Yeah. Well, it's been mostly pretty good. um I guess, like, I've kind of made the kitchen sort of my office, and
Yeah,
she's in the living room. My For those of you who don't know, Mari, my girlfriend Mari Puller, she's a fantastic visual artist, and she has a studio, but we've been trying to kind of stay home as much as possible. So she moved a lot of her stuff here. So she brought it. We set up like a big work table in the other room, and she's been doing her drawing and painting and stuff in that room. And I've kind of been doing the teaching thing here, and then I go down into the basement, and then we just make sure that and then we have time where we go do things together, like we do the dog stuff, or we go for walks, or we go get food and bring it back, or what have you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I guess. I mean, we're both the sort of people that need long periods of isolation and are fine with that. And we're both very introverted, and we both like need to work on our stuff, and we need to work on our stuff in a way where we're very focused and we don't like being disturbed.
Sure.
So that, I guess, like, yeah, being forced to spend time around each other and dance around each other's work flows has been a bit of an adjustment and a challenge. But I think it's, I don't know, I feel like it's, we're figuring it out. It's working, and I mean, we're getting things done. She's finished a work just the other day, and uh, I've been practicing. I also been composing more and things, and it's fine. We haven't murdered each other yet, if that's what you're asking.
I didn't want to say that, but yeah,
but who knows how long this is going to go on for? So ask me again in September, maybe. I
yeah,
don't know.
interview. It'll be yeah, maybe yeah. I mean, I know for me right now too, it's kind of I wouldn't be lying if I didn't say it had its set of adjustments, for sure.
Yeah,
Just because, yeah, allocating space in a small apartment,
yeah.
becomes
I
a matter of really negotiating and finding out what you need, as well as meeting, your partner where they're at, and
Yeah, I guess if I were to answer that question to be a little more serious and not so glib, because I have been thinking about this. This whole experience, it's fundamentally changed the world, and I think I mean, there's a very good chance that normal will never really come back. We'll have some kind of new normal, and there's going to be a new approach to work and social contact for the foreseeable future and stuff.
hmm
And I guess, like, I feel very, very fortunate to have what I have. Um, I mean, I love my girlfriend more than anything, and I love our life together, and I love our dog, and I think our apartment's pretty nice, and whatever. It's like we're very, very fortunate to have this ability where you know we are able to be in isolation and be focused on our work and focus on ourselves and our interests and be okay with that.
yeah,
um, I think back to different times in my life, where I wasn't teaching. Maybe I was trying to make it as gig, maybe make it with gigging exclusively, or working some terrible day job of some sort, or I was single and living alone, or in a weird, or had a weird roommate, or whatever. And if that was my life, and then suddenly, you're alone, and the money's not there, you can't go out, you can't make anything happen, and you know, um, that would be very dark. I think I can imagine that a lot of people are really hurting and really struggling
oh, totally.
right now.
And
I'm very lucky to be doing as well as I am with this situation.
sure,
Um, and if I don't know, man, if I didn't have her to like support me, I mean, maybe I'd be going nuts. I don't know. Um, so I try to do that too with her, and yeah, it's. I think the circumstances of the situation are, you know, very helpful for dealing with the bigger picture thing at the moment that we're all in.
totally. No, I think you bring up a good point too. I mean, I keep saying that. I think you bring up a good point. But really and truly,
Great.
yeah. But I think really and truly, it's important to kind of recognize, um, you know, all the. I wouldn't even. Yeah, it's just important to recognize all the blessings we have, for lack of,
Yeah.
and and be grateful for them. I think, within that, it's a topic I brought up, and it's also, the name of the series, Zooming In, with Baron. Um,
Hmm. Great name. Great title.
yeah, it's part of my name. But the idea is kind of like that's kind of been brought up consistently, or that I keep bringing up consistently is, I think as a musician, and maybe you, and definitely, I'm sure you can relate to this, is the idea that you know, we kind of identify ourselves with our workload or with how busy we are sometimes.
Yeah.
Identification that comes with, when I'm doing a ton of work, when money's hitting my bank account like no one's business, and when life is, that's when I associate having a good life. But then
Yeah.
what's happening, it's all of a sudden like who am I? Who am I really? What is my where's my self-worth? Because
Oh, yeah. I completely relate.
yeah,
100%. Yeah.
I think it would be weird if, I think you'd have to be a very special kind of musician not to. But yeah, I think no, I meant not, yeah. I guess the thing I would say is, maybe you can speak to that, just this idea of like, I think this is really a time to come within and to look at those things. Maybe speak about
Yeah.
that.
Speak about what? Sorry, cut out for a sec.
Like the idea of like coming within, and how, get more into the gratitude stuff and talk more about the,
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah, I mean, one of the questions, and this is something that I have been dealing with for a while, um, has to do with my relationship to music, like the art of music.
sure.
Um, and, I'm one of those people that, for me, there is no plan B, in the sense of there is no life without music in some way.
Yeah.
I've always felt that way. I did have a year in college where I basically didn't play and just worked a job, and it was very dark and it was very depressing. And after that experience, I definitely knew that, like, no matter what, no matter how hard it gets, I am not quitting. I need to do music on a daily basis. But the definition of what that is and what that, especially now that we have social media, it's very easy to get into these mental traps of comparing your career to other people's careers. And, I've always been more into the art than the business of art, I guess. And I'm very, my definition of what is a successful musician has changed a lot over the years.
Mhm.
Yes, I totally admire a lot of great players who are able to have these performance careers and be on the road and do all this great stuff. Um, and there's times in my life when I would love to be doing more of that, and whatever. But for me, to be a successful musician or to be a successful artist is just to maintain this daily practice of having it in your life, for your entire life, and no matter how, and pulling it off however you have to pull it off. And if you're fortunate enough to be a jazz star or something, I mean, that's fantastic, that's great. But obviously that there's a lot of luck and connections, and there's a lot of things that have to happen for that to be your life.
Right.
There's a lot of great musicians. Like, the definition of a successful musician in one city or country or whatever might be teaching at a university 2 days a week and playing in a restaurant another day a week, and then just putting out a record every couple of years, and maybe that's how you do it, and it's fine. And then some people need to be on the road constantly. Some people want to play and lots of records, and some people really want to teach, and some people produce things.
Right.
There's some people organize concerts,
Hmm.
and whatever, and help other artists. There's a lot of ways to be a part of this. Um, I'm fortunate that I like to teach. I love teaching, and you know, I, I take it very seriously. Um, so I'm just glad that I'm able to do that and play, even if it's just playing in a basement, you know, every day. Um, and that to me is, that makes me grateful for sure. And then I get to, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty grateful for my situation. I know I have friends in New York, for example, who are not having a fun time right now. So
Yeah, definitely. That's yeah. But yeah, yeah, I really admire you for that too. You know, being a little bit younger than you, I should say, I kind of, you know, I look at what you've done in your career, and I look at like kind of how you put things together, and that's one thing I really find, you know, like you're saying, that I'm really appreciative of is the fact that, you know, you are pretty, you know, centered with regard to what, you know, it seems like you are pretty centered in terms of what you need, understanding that and understanding what you like, and just kind of really making a point to, you know, enjoy it and to live it. And yeah, that's something
well, I try.
I would say you succeed, you know, honestly. I mean, on top of that, you know, I think, you know, for what it's worth,
Oh,
you're, yeah, you're a fantastic sax player as well, you know.
oh, thank you. Likewise, man.
Yeah, I got to pour the compliments out. Just got to pour them out. Um, I guess, yeah, as I'm kind of, you know, I guess you've spoken to a lot of this, and you've spoken to like almost everything I would ask. I was planning on asking, but I just want to know, you know, this is a question I bring up at the end, usually of the interviews. What is the thing
Okay.
right now to, has there been anything you've done to prepare? You know, like have you, for this time, I guess, because right now we don't know for sure when we're going to go back to, when we're going to actually,
To prepare for what happens next, or for the long haul of this situation, or
what happens next as well as the long haul of this situation.
um, yes, actually, yes. Yeah, this this situation has, you know, we talk about the hierarchy of needs and all that stuff, and the very top is self-actualization.
Hmm.
And as artists, we are probably more obsessed with self-actualizing than most people. And I know that I have been for most of my life, and it has always been about, it's like obsessed with the idea of, oh man, if I'm not playing with these guys, if I'm not here, if I'm not doing this, if I'm not doing what that guy on Instagram is doing, then somehow I haven't succeeded. Somehow I haven't made it. And you know, I've been slow, like I said earlier, I've been slowly transitioning from that line of thinking, and I'm totally not immune to that kind of thinking. It is a daily struggle to not fall into a pit of self-loathing about the state of my own career, and there's all kinds of things that I wish I was doing that maybe I could have done better, or whatever. It's easy to fall into that trap. um, but I will say that this situation definitely made me say, like, you know what, like, this is what's important to me: my family, you know, my partner, my dog, you know, my personal relationship to music and the, you know, is more important than being a famous or successful musician. You know, changing up my career or doing whatever it takes to maintain a certain level of stability so that I can take care of the people that are important to me in my life. Um, and if that means teaching more and playing fewer gigs, like, fine, that's okay. No, I mean, like, if you read the stories and listen to of like legendary musicians and the stages of their careers, and McCoy drove a cab for 10 years, for God's sake, you know. I mean, people go through phases where sometimes the biggest stars have to go and do other things for a while to keep them and their families whole. And this is just one of those global situations where I have decided that my personal ego and my relationship to whatever jazz hierarchy there is, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter anymore. This is about, I mean, best case scenario, we lose 6 months of work and then things kind of go back to normal. Worst case scenario, there's another Great Depression. We don't know what's going to happen. And I want to be as clear in my personal set of values about what is important. And that's, you know, I mean, I know you're a spiritual man and I'm typically not, but I do believe in my friends and my family are what are important to me ultimately. On a more practical note, the other thing I've done, and which is kind of cool, is I am learning technology. I'm I'm well, yeah.
It's the way to do
With
it.
the well, with the idea that we're going to be stuck at home more and more and more, and I was like, well, what's this business? And you know, I'm bad with computers. I'm bad with recording technology, and I've always been afraid of this stuff because it's just I'm it doesn't come to me very naturally,
Right.
and I've been forced to conquer my fears. So I've actually recently ordered some gear to be
Dope.
showing up sometime this week. I'm going to have a good microphone and a box and whatever. And you know, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this, but I know that if I want to participate in projects for the short term at least, I need to be able to record myself at home with good audio and send that off. And I do a lot of work with a great bass player, my friend Hugh V. Williams, who's a bass player in London. And actually, like in a parallel universe, I would be flying out to London next week with Mark Pringle and Max Santner to do a tour with Hugh around the UK. You know, we have a new project called Constantly Moving Happiness Machines, and
Yes.
you know, they're starting to like, we were, you know, preparing to do a record and all this stuff, and then it's like, well, no, it's got to wait. But Hugh's so great at like, you know, he has a podcast and all this stuff, and you know, we've been talking about, all right, can we record music somehow? And we've been talking about what kind of gear do we need to like kind of email our parts around, and we're in this discussion right now of like, well, you know, we don't necessarily have to shelve this thing for a year. We can maybe do something. So, you know, that's one example. Another example is, you know, as we're going to be teaching a lot more for the sake of explaining, you know, having things be good for my students, I would like my own recorded voice and my record, you know, what I play in my horn to sound better when I go up there. And I've always had an interest in filmmaking. I used to be an actor, and I made a few student movies and stuff back in the day.
Wow.
So there's this side of me that's kind of like interested in the idea of getting into editing and learning how to record things and overdub myself and create little videos with different audio things go out and maybe find a way to express myself or do music in that way. So these are some of the things that I'm thinking about, just like things I can do by myself. I'm also thinking of like, well, I want to write music that can be played, but you know, it might be a while before we get to play with other people. So I've actually started writing saxophone etudes. So I've been trying to write one every day using this 12-tone harmony technique that I've been studying for a while.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully I'll start posting those and putting them up soon. But it's been great just because I'm exploring this concept, and I guess a lot of people do this in their practice. They write licks and patterns and whatever. So I'm trying to find a more musical way to do this stuff. So yeah, so once again, if I come up with some cool things, it would be nice to record it and have it sound good. And, you know, so these are all just ideas that, things that I can explore by myself. that I don't know if it turns the music into money necessarily, but it's a way to connect with other people, maybe. Like if you can, present it, it's great. You're alone, you have all these ideas, and you want to share them with people, because sharing ideas is a big part of what we do in our community.
Hmm.
But if you can't record it well enough, if you can't present it in a way that's good to nice to listen to, or consume, I mean, it doesn't matter. It just becomes a guy in a basement.
Totally. Glad you mentioned that. No, I mean, that's the perfect, yeah, that's the perfect quote. Um, but yeah, I might use that later. Might
Yeah,
later, but no, I think, yeah, I think really and truly, you make a great point. I mean, that's something I think every musician um, needs to do too. I know for me, I started getting introduced to that world probably like right before I moved to, like in probably beginning of 2013, and
yeah.
like I didn't need it for like years, and so I
Hmm.
clip mic. I had an interface, and some, I had different ways I could kind of do stuff if I needed to, and I never needed.
Hmm.
But it wasn't until fairly recent that I started to get back into it, like maybe a year ago, because I got asked to do some stuff from a few of my colleagues, and then I ended up just getting a new interface and had I had a clip mic, but I couldn't for the life of me find it for like the last 2 weeks. So I yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's kind of how this thing came into fruition, and I got this joint, and
It's
like you, more stuff. But I think it's the thing every musician needs to be doing is to just find, like, not even buy new gear. I mean, anybody can buy gear, but like, and find a way to I mean, but just really find new ways to create and stay creative. And that's something
well,
this too. This is like a time when artists need to find ways to kind of stay creative and find new ways to
there's 18-year-olds making hit records out of their bedrooms. It's
yeah.
I man, I have become a huge Billie Eilish fan
Yes.
over the last year.
Okay.
I absolutely love her music. And there are a couple of short documentaries, not documentaries, but like profile pieces
Hmm.
about the making of specific songs. I think the
Okay.
New York Times did one, and Rolling Stone did one. They profiled the making of the song "Bad Guy," and they did "Bury a Friend," which
Okay.
I think is a super cool song. Um, and it's fascinating for someone like me, who's a little behind the curve, I guess, with the technology,
Okay.
to see like how these two young people are making, this brother sister collaborative team are approaching making music together with this combination of traditional songwriting but also found sounds. And it's not just here are my beats. I mean, there's beats, but there's a lot of found sound. There's a lot of experimental stuff there.
Mm.
There's a lot of very subtle harmonic things going on that they both, like everything's really shaped. I mean, for some people, they'll, this isn't new. There's people
Right.
that we know that are deep into this, and they're like, yeah, of course. But as a typically acoustic analog sort of musician, I I've been yeah, it's been interesting learning more about it. Not that I expect to ever be great at it or anything, but it's been very interesting.
Hmm. Hmm. No.
And yeah, that's the way the world seems to be. I mean, why do we need to hire 30 musicians when we can all make records out of our living rooms or our bedrooms? If that's the way the industry was already going, it seems like maybe prudent to buy a microphone.
Yeah, I think so. I think really, and I think also, I think it I think it's also a time where, a lot of musicians who might be kind of, you know, players, specific only players, um, or people who I would say who aren't composing, producing, and don't have an improvisation or as like open of a mindset to,
Mm.
you know, explore these options and like check these artists out, check, you know, out and try to do it themselves on a certain level, and kind of
Yeah.
just have that trial and error session of just like, you know, finding new ways to kind of create. Um,
Yeah.
but it's, you know, I think, yeah, but I think it, yeah, it's a, yeah, I mean, Billie Eilish, man, you were the one who introduced, like, because I don't really, I got to be honest, my pop knowledge is, I wouldn't say zero, but it is pretty, you know, I'm a little bit behind the curve, you know, I kind of just stopped, you know, I can't lie. I had some, I'm not going to say it on the record what that was, but it's behind. But yeah, like,
What's your dark secret? You've got some mighty boss tone records in the back somewhere.
it's like, isn't this hip? Yeah, no, but yeah, it is hip. Mighty Boss Tones was a great, yeah, they're awesome. But needless to say, I will, you know, I think it's, yeah, the time to, like you say, you know, find new, like what you're doing, just kind of finding new ways to create. I think that's what we're all should be doing. And yeah, it doesn't, I mean, the truth is, man, to get a home studio set up, $300, like you can get pretty much everything you need. And actually you can get more than you need in a lot of ways, considering, you know, assuming you already have a computer.
I was surprised at how affordable it was to find the things that you need to at least start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
It's,
sure.
I mean, you think about what you spend $300 on. I mean, that, you know, it's like for that's some, it's like you basically kill restaurants for a month of a year and you got a home studio.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, for some people that might be the case, or, you know, you kill a restaurant bill for like 2 months and you just cook it
Well,
up.
I don't know, man. I only eat at really fancy restaurants, so.
Uh, yeah, well, you know, well, it's hard to sit at them now.
Nothing but fine dining for this guy. No. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's a very achievable thing to save for. It's definitely cheaper. It is cheaper than buying like a flute or something,
Yeah.
you know.
But you could buy, I don't know, eBay and Amazon, they have options for that too. But
Well, yeah, but to get one that works, you can like you can get like a decent studio mic and a recording, you know, basic recording setup for like half the price of a cheap student level Yamaha flute or clarinet or something.
oh, totally. Yeah, easily.
Totally, yeah. But that's neither here nor there. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that I I do want to mention about this time is there has never been a better there has never been more like information available online.
Yeah.
People, I mean, maybe it's a combination of like people want to, you know, they want to stay relevant and they need, you know, they have no gigs, so they need to stay do things online or whatever. They need students. Maybe there's that element, but then there's also maybe just a human element of needing to connect with the community or whatever. But there's so much, you know, people who historically you couldn't maybe get a lesson with,
Right.
who didn't teach very much, you know, or maybe under certain conditions,
Mm.
are now putting up videos on Facebook and YouTube
Oh yeah.
and dropping serious knowledge, you know, really fascinating stuff out there.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think like I think that social media is kind of a weird place right now. It's like the noise has come down a little bit. There are people who were always kind of like online promoting stuff all the time, and maybe they're not there right now. Maybe they're taking a break or whatever.
Hmm.
And then there's other people who historically weren't. interacting with the world as much that way and are taking the time to put up well, like what you're doing is like putting up an interview series, or or doing things like this where
Yeah,
they're talking and having honest conversations with colleagues about what we're dealing with and how we're feeling, and what we're working on and how we're practicing, and being honest, more honest in a way that, like, if you just went up to them at a club, you wouldn't get the same kind of interaction, maybe.
yeah, totally. Like someone walks up to me after a gig and asks me a question, I'd be like, huh? Oh yeah, right. Wait 5 minutes. No, I'm joking. I would answer their question.
I Well, I mean, yeah, I think it depends on the mood you're in and how long the gig was, whatever. But it is it is a good time for sharing knowledge, perhaps. Um, I
Totally.
feel like I've learned a lot, um, just from, because everyone wants to show what they're doing, and what they're doing is they're practicing at home. Um, and it's great to see, like, oh, cool. That's what this guy's doing. That's what this person is working on. I hadn't thought of that. Or maybe you're surprised. You're like, really? Well, you know, um,
Yeah,
I think that's great. So I guess there's positives to every situation.
totally. Um, but yeah, I think there is still, I guess within that, I guess, there's also, I finding like what you talked about early in the interview, just with regard to, some days I'll wake up, I'll start my day and I'll have, you know, a to-do list. I'll have had a to-do from 2 days prior and I still haven't done
Right.
that stuff. And
Mm.
I'll work until maybe like before I was cutting my days off at 7, like when we first started the quarantine, and now it's like I notice I'm working a little into 9, like at 9 at night. I'm still working, and I'm like, and like I start working usually around like 9 or so in the morning anyway. So it's like, man,
Is it like, are you framing that in like a a positive or a negative, or you're not sure? Or?
it's like this. I mean, I think it's all positive work because like I enjoy what I'm doing and I enjoy like, how I'm doing it. It's more the thing that kind of happens though is I notice how would I say it? It's just a feeling that comes out of that work. Like sometimes it feels like, great, I accomplished something, but sometimes it feels like, man, I didn't accomplish enough. And therefore like just this constant feeling of like I need to do more and that'll make me happier. Kind of workaholic.
Yeah, yeah. That is a trap. That is, I think, lots of people in our field have that.
Totally.
I know that I do. Um, yeah, I think this is where having a level-headed partner um, really helps you out a little bit. Because, like I said, like, if we were forced to, like, I know you're married, if we were forced to go through this situation as a single person, you know maybe having a roommates that we didn't totally connect to in certain ways or whatever, um and all you had was the work. I mean, that could get really dark. That could get really, you would burn out, because you need to bring things in. You have to consume things.
Hmm.
And it can't just be music. You can't just spend your time listening to music, then playing music, then writing music, and music. I mean, look, I mean, I know great musicians who operate that way, and I have tried to be like that at times in my life.
Definitely.
Um, but it can be very draining and unhealthy, actually.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with working from home. It's like, when does work stop? When do when is it okay to close everything up and go put on a movie
Yeah.
and feel okay about that, and not feel like you're slacking off or being lazy or something?
Yeah. It's always just a matter I find like too, it's like I have to set that boundary and hold myself to it, it's like the minute 7 p.m. hits or whenever it hits, I have to just be like, nope, that's it. That's it. Nope, 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 nope. You're not doing anything else. You are literally like closing the computer, you're going, you're eating dinner, and you're, you're you're going into the nighttime routine. You're not, it's no longer a matter of trying to like I have to be more. I mean, that's what I'm kind of noticing. Unless I'm strict with myself right now about it, like, I'll stay up and I'll edit. I'll edit these videos and try to come up with little clips, and
Yeah.
I'll try to, I remember last night. Yeah, I was recording some stuff, and it was funny. I listened back to it this morning after doing it, and I was like, I got the articulations right, but I sounded like, my tuning I was way out of tune in some of this section.
Yeah.
It's a matter of being tired. It's not like I'm out of tune. It's like I'm just tired.
I,
You
you
know?
also need a break. I definitely get in these situations where like I maybe I wanted to go practice. I had planned to practice or I planned to work, and then my partner will be like, Mari, she'll say, it's no, we're going to go to the dog park.
Yeah.
And of course, I have every right or ability to say, no, I can't stay here. I could totally stay in the basement and do that. But then I also feel like, well, what am I missing if I don't? And I might, and it's stupid because maybe I'll feel a bit resentful in the beginning. I'll feel like impatient, like, oh, it's like we're here running around outside and enjoying all this sun with all these people and, whatever, being, having a beer, and I could be at home in a dark windowless basement playing Autumn Leaves in 12 keys, but I, and I'm going to confess something. I haven't practiced in like 4 days now. I had a moment. I'm currently halfway through a McCoy Tyner transcription. When McCoy passed, I decided I was going to transcribe and learn to play McCoy transcription. And then I'm like halfway through because, spoiler alert, they're long and
Yeah.
they're difficult and fast. And a piano and a saxophone are different instruments with different ranges, and there's different technical yeah. So I have been working on this McCoy transcription for a while, and I got like halfway through it, and I literally walked out of the basement feeling like the worst human being ever, like maybe 4 days ago. And that's when I just, so and then the weather was super nice, and I was like, taking some days.
Yeah. I think, man, that's like the most healthy thing to do in that moment. I think though, the fact that that's what I'm always reminding myself too, is like I find like the fact that I can transcribe this stuff, or I can like approach this stuff and have a level head about it and realize like, I need to walk away. That's like a bigger step than feeling, I remember when I was like 21, 22, I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to push. I'm going to push. I'm going to push, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't really, it's like those people who work out in the gym for like, they're just lifting heavy every day. It's like, dude, you're going to hurt yourself. Like there's going to be a point where your muscles actually tear if you're not careful, if you're not like cognizant of this stuff. So I mean,
Yeah.
I commend you for it. I commend you for taking 4 days off. I think,
Well, you also have to ask yourself, like, what are you doing all this for? I
yeah,
mean,
too.
especially right now, like we're all just guys playing in our bedrooms at the moment or whatever. So I mean, it's not like we have any gigs coming up. We have nothing to practice for, uh, And at a certain point, we can all play. We can all play our instruments. You
Totally.
know, uh, you know, if it if this was 1990 and there were restaurant gigs everywhere or whatever, I mean, we're all good enough to make a living as a musician at a time when the economy supported playing in a different way. That's not the thing. It's like we're going for something intangible or whatever. It's like, but I mean, I don't know. It's like, at what point are we trying to be geniuses, or are we just, is it fun? Is it just for fun? is it, who know, why are we trying to impress people? Is it for our egos? I mean,
Yeah,
you know, uh, when we don't have that, I mean, like it or not, this situation has forced us to, I think, is forcing a lot of people to deal with their relationship to music.
totally.
Because if the point was to become a famous musician, and now for the short term, being famous isn't really like an option, or it doesn't really matter, like, why are we doing this? And I could imagine that causing some soul searching in some people. I know that,
Yeah,
it definitely makes me think about it.
totally. No, I hear you. I'm like, you're saying this to me, and I'm thinking about not just what I got to do, but I'm also thinking like, yeah, that question is a big one. I think, yeah, and I think social media does contribute to that in some level too, because I know, there's this kind of, when you see some of your colleagues or some of your people around you posting all these like group videos, rather than just thinking like, yeah, I want to contribute and doing it out of the spirit of love and fun and let me go.
Yeah,
If you're doing it out of that competitive spirit of, I gotta now like, you know, I gotta now show my my piece, and
yeah, it's
contribution. Yeah, that's when it gets iffy. I think
yeah,
yeah, but I think you put it well. It's a soul searching moment. I think every musician has to be, or every person doing this kind of stuff has to be very cognizant of why they're doing it when they do it, or else it can get really dangerous really fast. Because I think feeding the ego like that can be a really, really big addiction as well. And I don't know. I mean, you just never know though with anyone else. I think it's just a question we all have to answer for ourselves. And yeah, wrapping it up. Something I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned some of your musical that I'm going to circle back to now. I get,
okay,
yeah, I can't believe I said circle back. I'm a circle back guy now.
sure. That's a solid phrase.
Yeah, I just feel like I just, yeah. Anyway,
I like to circle back and then circle back again.
yeah, it's called a 360. I'm just gonna do a nice, yeah.
Well, all great conversations eventually circle back to the first point, and that's the natural ending point, I think.
So your musical projects,
Okay, fine.
your musical projects,
Yeah,
plug them.
plug my pluggables. Okay. All right. Well, I have a trio called Hover Trout with Matt Adamite and Sly Uhas, that doesn't play as often as I'd like because Sly, the drummer, lives in Budapest, so it's a little difficult. We have a record that is going to come out this year. This once I take care of business, it is definitely going to come out probably the fall. I have a project with that I co-run with London bass player Hugh V. Williams. If you don't familiar, if you're not familiar with him, check him out. Great musician. He also has a podcast called Improvised Music Agenda, which is awesome.
Okay.
And we have this band with Mark Pringle and Max Santner called Constantly Moving Happiness Machines. That was going to be touring in the UK and was supposed to have a bunch of gigs in Berlin that have all been coroned, so that didn't happen. But hopefully, I mean, if we are able to perform in the fall, then those will be rescheduled. Um, and yeah, those are the in terms of, and then I have a project with that doesn't really have a name, but we get together and we do gigs whenever we can with Peter Van Huffel, who's an alto player, Michael Greener and Dan Peter Sundland.
Hmm.
Um, we have to find a name for this band, but we've played, it's like every couple of months we do a gig and it's a lot of fun. Um, and yeah, what else? I also am the artistic director of the Sideways series, which I've been kind of taking a break from anyway. Even before the COVID thing happened, I had sort of stepped back a little bit for this year. And now, we did have a bunch of gigs booked for the spring, and unfortunately, what we had has now been canceled, obviously. Um, I don't know what the future of that will be because obviously none of us can plan at the moment for
Right.
that. Um, but if it ever comes back and you have a chance to go to see it, it's at Cafe du Jardin, and that's my thing. What else? Yeah, I teach a lot. So if anyone wants a flute, clarinet, saxophone, and/or jazz-related lesson, I am available on Skype or Zoom. Zoom is now the thing. No one does Skype lessons anymore. It's all Zoom lessons now.
Man, I did a Skype lesson earlier. I gotta be honest, man. I taught one of the students on Skype. It was
Yeah,
good.
how
It was not as good.
yeah, that's what I kind of I kind of realized, like, I only talk to my parents on Skype. Everyone else I talk to on different, whether it's WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever. I'm using different video chat programs. It's kind of weird that Skype was the original in a way. It's the OG, but it hasn't kept up in a way. But anyway, yeah, and I guess that's it. I'm on Instagram. I have a Facebook artist page. I have a website. That I exist. I live in Berlin. I'm available for coffees sometimes. Those are all my pluggables. That's all I can say.
And dope, dude. I appreciate you. Thank you for
Thank you so much for doing this, and thanks for having me.
and you. I'm gonna end now.